English for Science and Engineering. Lecture on Electronics. Transformer Design and Construction.
And a transformer has at least one or two windings. Some transformers have several windings. The winding in which we input the electric current is called the primary winding. And the other winding that we draw current out of the transformer is called the secondary. So within the transformer, there's usually just one primary, usually. And there is at least one secondary, but oftentimes there are many secondaries. Tap. Let me explain this to you. Here's our transformer. This is our primary. This is our secondary. So I have some number of windings, a certain number of loops in this coil, and we call that some n number. And then on the secondary, I have some other number of loops. I'll call that n sub s. So the ratio of n, p, and s determines the output voltage. Also, there is some characteristics of the transformer that may vary this ratio. So every transformer is a little bit different. So if you want to create a transformer, has anyone ever created a transformer? Did you wind your own? Anybody? All right, we have to do this. I did this in high school. We got a big bar of iron, wrapped some copper wire around it, and then wrapped another piece of copper wire to make a secondary. And then I would count how many winds produce how much voltage. And then I could calculate this ratio for this particular transformer. And it was fun. You know why? Because I had this big bar of iron, maybe this square and this long, and I just put a lot of windings around this bar until my coil was about this big around. And then I got a car battery, because a car battery has a lot of current, more than you can get out of the wall. And I put that on the coil, and this electromagnet was so powerful that everything around this magnet would just go jump, just stick to this magnet, and I could not pull nails or any kind of stuff off of this magnet unless I turned off the switch to the battery. So it was fun. So I encourage you, play around with these components and see what you can do with it. It's fun. Now, back to my point about the tap. A tap is where I don't use these two conductors on the secondary winding. Instead, I find one of these coils and I cut off the insulating layer, and I attach another wire right there. Now, since this has a fewer number of windings than this does, then this will be a smaller output voltage compared to the original conductors. So it is possible to choose what voltage you want out of your transformer by selecting an appropriate tap. This is the tap. Now for home wiring, like in the building and in your apartment or dormitory, they use this exact type of arrangement in the transformer. The input is some higher voltage. The output between here and here is about 220 volts. Now the voltage that we use to power in our building is 110, and that is a tap. It's called a center tap because it cuts right in the middle of the coil. So the voltage potential is half. So we get 110 volts across here and 110 volts across here. And this is what we use. And there are some appliances in your home that do use the 220, like an oven, or maybe you have a washing machine or a clothes dryer. Usually it's some very large piece of equipment that we use a lot of current. Okay, so this is tap. Some transformers have movable taps. And there was another type of transformer that the taps were not movable, but the core was movable. Do you remember what those are called? Jason, you remember? Transformer that has a moving core inside the transformer. And the core is what controls the output voltage. You remember what that's called? Yeah. Well, there was one type that we studied that moved in a straight line. And so it had that line in its name, linear. Remember that, linear? And then when something moves, that's called a displacement. You got it yet? Linear, displacement. The word for change is variable. And what's the whole thing called? Transformer. So if you think about it, you can remember each word in the name. Linear, displacement, variable, transformer.